a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Debbie Reynolds. Mary Frances Debbie Reynolds was an American actress, singer, businesswoman, film historian, humanitarian, and mother of the actress and writer Carrie Fisher. She was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Newcomer for her portrayal of Helen Kane in the 1950 film Three Little Words, and her breakout role was her first leading role as Kathy Selden in Singin in the Rain. Other successes include The Affairs of Dobie Gillis, Susan Slept Here, Bundle of Joy, The Catered Affair, and Tammy and the Bachelor, in which her performance of the song, Tammy, reached #1 on the Billboard music charts. In 1959, she released her first pop music album, titled Debbie. She starred in How the West Was Won, and The Unsinkable Molly Brown, a biographical film about the famously boisterous Molly Brown. Her performance as Brown earned her a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her other films include The Singing Nun, Divorce American Style, What's the Matter with Helen?, Charlotte's Web, Mother, and In and Out. Reynolds was also a cabaret performer. In 1979, she founded the Debbie Reynolds Dance Studio in North Hollywood, which still operates today. In 1969, she starred on television in The Debbie Reynolds Show, for which she received a Golden Globe nomination. In 1973, Reynolds starred in a Broadway revival of the musical Irene and was nominated for the Tony Award for Best Lead Actress in a Musical. She was also nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award for her performance in A Gift of Love and an Emmy Award for playing Grace's mother Bobby on Will and Grace. At the turn of the millennium, Reynolds reached a new younger generation with her role as Aggie Cromwell in Disney's Halloween Town series. In 1988, she released her autobiography, titled Debbie, My Life. In 2013, she released a second autobiography, Unsinkable, a memoir. Reynolds also had several business ventures, including ownership of a dance studio and a Las Vegas hotel and casino, and she was an avid collector of film memorabilia, beginning with items purchased at the landmark 1970 MGM auction. She served as president of the Thalians, an organization dedicated to mental health causes. Reynolds continued to perform successfully on stage, television, and film into her 80s. In January 2015, Reynolds received the Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award. In 2016, she received the Academy Award's Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. In the same year, a documentary about her life was released titled Bright Lights, starring Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, which turned out to be her final film appearance. The film premiered on HBO on January 7, 2017. On December 28, 2016, Reynolds was hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center after she experienced a medical emergency, which her son Todd Fisher later described as a severe stroke. She died from the stroke that afternoon, one day after the death of her daughter Carrie Fisher. Early life. Reynolds was born on April 1, 1932, in El Paso, Texas, to Maxine, Minnie, and Raymond Francis, Ray, Reynolds, a carpenter who worked for the Southern Pacific Railroad. She was of Scottish, Irish and English ancestry and was raised in a strict Nazarene church. She had a brother 2 years her senior. Reynolds was a Girl Scout, once saying that she wanted to die as the world's oldest living Girl Scout. Reynolds was also a member of the International Order of Jobs Daughters, now called Jobs Daughters International. Her mother took in laundry for income, while they lived in a shack on Magnolia Street in El Paso. "We may have been poor," she said in a 1963 interview, "but we always had something to eat, even if Dad had to go out on the desert and shoot jackrabbits." Her family moved to Burbank, California in 1939. When Reynolds was a 16-year-old student at Burbank High School in 1948, she won the Miss Burbank Beauty Contest. Soon after, she had a contract with Warner Brothers and acquired the nickname Debbie via Jack L. Warner. One of her closest high school friends said that she rarely dated during her teenage years in Burbank. They never found her attractive in school. She was cute, but sort of tomboyish, and her family never had any money to speak of. She never dressed well or drove a car. And, I think, during all the years in school, she was invited to only one dance. Reynolds agreed, saying that, "When I started, I didn't even know how to dress. I wore dungarees and a shirt. I had no money, no taste and no training." Her friend adds, film and television. Reynolds was first discovered by talent scouts from Warner Brothers and MGM, who were at the 1948 Miss Burbank contest. Both companies wanted her to sign up with their studio and had to flip a coin to see which one got her. Warner won the coin toss, and she was with the studio for 2 years. When Warner Brothers stopped producing musicals, she moved to MGM. With MGM, Reynolds regularly appeared in movie musicals during the 1950s and had several hit records during the period. Her song, Abba Dabba Honeymoon, and sung as a duet with co-star Carlton Carpenter, was the first soundtrack recording to become a top-of-the-chart gold record, reaching number 3 on the Billboard charts. Her performance in the film greatly impressed the studio, which then gave her a co-starring role in what would become her highest-profile film, Singin' in the Rain, a satire on movie-making in Hollywood. During the transition from silent to sound pictures, it co-starred Gene Kelly, whom she called a great dancer and cinematic genius, adding, "He made me a star. I was 18 and he taught me how to dance and how to work hard and be dedicated." In 1956, she appeared in Bundle of Joy with her then-husband, Eddie Fisher. Her starring role in The Unsinkable Molly Brown led to a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Reynolds noted, however, that she initially had issues with its director, Charles Walters. "He didn't want me," she said. "He wanted Shirley MacLaine, who at the time was unable to take the role. He said, 'You are totally wrong for the part.' But 6 weeks into production, he reversed his opinion. He came to me and said, 'I have to admit that I was wrong. You are playing the role really well. I'm pleased.'" Reynolds also played in Goodbye Charlie, a 1964 comedy film about a callous womanizer who gets his just reward. It was adapted from George Axelrod's play Goodbye, Charlie, and also starred Tony Curtis and Pat Boone. She next portrayed Janine Deckers in The Singing Nun. In what Reynolds once called the stupidest mistake of my entire career, she made headlines in 1970 after instigating a fight with the NBC television network over cigarette advertising on her weekly television show. Although she was television's highest-paid female performer at the time, she quit the show for breaking its contract when NBC explained to Reynolds that banning cigarette commercials from her show would be impossible. She kept her resolve. The show drew mixed reviews, but according to NBC, it captured about 42% of the nation's viewing audience. She said later she was especially concerned about the commercials because of the number of children watching the show. She did quit doing the show after about a year, which she said had cost her about $2 million of lost income. "Maybe I was a fool to quit the show. But at least I was an honest fool. I'm not a phony or pretender. With me it wasn't a question of money, but integrity. I'm the one who has to live with myself." The dispute would have been rendered moot and in Reynolds' favor anyway had she not resigned. By 1971, the Public Health Cigarette Smoking Act would ban all radio and television advertising for tobacco products. Reynolds played the title role in the Hanna-Barbera animated musical Charlotte's Web, in which she originated the song, Mother Earth and Father Time. Reynolds continued to make other appearances in film and television. She played Helen Chapel Hackett's mother, Dee Dee Chapel, on an episode of Wings titled, If It's Not One Thing, It's Your Mother, which originally aired on November 22, 1994. From 1999 to 2006, she played Grace Adler's theatrical mother, Bobby Adler, on the NBC sitcom Will and Grace, which earned Reynolds her only Emmy Award nomination for Outstanding Guest Actress in a Comedy Series in 2000. She played a recurring role in the Disney Channel original movie Halloweentown film series as Aggie Cromwell. Reynolds made a guest appearance as a presenter at the 69th Academy Awards in 1997. In 2000, Reynolds took up a recurring voice role on the children's television program Rugrats, playing the grandmother of 2 of the characters. In 2001, she co-starred with Elizabeth Taylor and Shirley MacLaine in These Old Broads, a television movie written for her by her daughter, Carrie Fisher. She had a cameo role as herself in the 2004 film Connie and Carla. In 2013, she appeared in Behind the Candelabra, as the mother of Liberace. The actress appears with her daughter in Bright Lights, starring Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, a 2016 documentary about the very close relationship between the two. It premiered at the 2016 Cannes Film Festival. The television premiere was January 7, 2017, on HBO. According to USA Today, the film is an intimate portrait of Hollywood royalty. It loosely chronicles their lives through interviews, photos, footage and vintage home movies. It culminates in a moving scene, just as Reynolds is preparing to receive the 2015 Screen Actors Guild Life Achievement Award, which Fisher presented to her mum. Music career and cabaret. Her recording of the song, Tammy, earned her a gold record, and was the best-selling single by a female vocalist in 1957. It was number 1 for 5 weeks on the Billboard pop charts. In the movie, she co-starred with Leslie Nielsen. Reynolds also scored 2 other top 25 Billboard hits, with A Very Special Love and Am I That Easy to Forget, a pop music version of a country music hit made famous by Carl Ballou, Skeeter Davis, and several years later by singer Engelbert Humperdinck. In 1991, she released an album titled The Best of Debbie Reynolds. For 10 years, she headlined for about 3 months a year in Las Vegas Riviera Hotel. She enjoyed live shows even though that type of performing was extremely strenuous, she said. With a performing schedule of 2 shows a night, 7 nights a week, it's probably the toughest kind of show business. But in my opinion, the most rewarding. I like the feeling of being able to change stage bits and business when I want. You can't do that in motion pictures or TV. As part of her nightclub act, Reynolds was noted for doing impressions of celebrities such as Eva and Zsa Zsa Gabor, Mae West, Barbra Streisand, Phyllis Diller, and Betty Davis. Her impersonation of Davis was inspired following their co-starring roles in the 1956 film, The Catered Affair. Reynolds had started doing stage impersonations as a teenager. Her impersonation of Bessie Hutton was performed as a singing number during the Miss Burbank contest in 1948. Reynolds' last album was a Christmas record, with Donald O'Connor entitled Chrissy the Christmas Mouse, arranged and conducted by Angelo Di Pippo. Stage work. With limited film and television opportunities coming her way, Reynolds accepted an opportunity to make her Broadway debut. She starred in the 1973 revival of Irene, a musical first produced 60 years before. When asked why she waited so long to appear in a Broadway play, she explained, Reynolds and her daughter Carrie both made their Broadway debut in the play. The production broke records for the highest weekly gross of any musical. For that production, she received a Tony nomination. Reynolds also starred in a self-titled Broadway revue, Debbie, in 1976. She toured with Harve Presnell in Annie Get Your Gun, then wrapped up the Broadway run of Woman of the Year in 1983. In the late 1980s, Reynolds repeated her role as Molly Brown in the stage version of the Unsinkable Molly Brown, first opposite Presnell and later with Ron Raines. In 2010, she appeared in her own West End show Debbie Reynolds, Alive and Fabulous. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?